There we go. Hey, welcome to another episode of Heavy Water 77. I am your host, Jerry. And this is my co-host, Joseph Staub. How you doing, man?
Doing well, Jerry. How you doing?
I am doing good. If we are about all things, everything Sticks, man. We're dedicating our total show to that band because we are both huge fans of that band and we love talking about it. Um, what we're going to do first is I want to say thank you to all the people that liked, subscribed, and left great comments on our first episode. That means a lot to us. I can't thank you guys enough, and I hope that you'll love being on this journey with us, talking about this great rock and roll band. Joseph, what do you think about that, man? You happy
Yeah,
about that too?
I was surprised. I did not expect this many views and comments on our first episode. I was really
Right.
blown away. I really want to thank everyone for checking it out, and we got a lot of really positive feedback so far. Really happy that you guys are enjoying it, and I really hope that you guys stick around. We got a lot of episodes coming up.
A
Yeah, they got a pretty
lot.
big discography. We got some cool ideas to do a little bit of stuff to break up the discography a little bit. Just have some fun shows in between sometimes, like we did with our first show, ideas like that. So we really hope that you guys stick around with us as we make our way through this great band's discography. And we're going to start that today. So I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to start with the wood and nickel era of Styx. Before we get into that, if you're a fan of the classic Styx and you come across this era of wood and nickel, and you're like, huh, interested in this. I never heard of this before. You'll be a little shell shocked at first, because I was at first. I mean, what did you think when you first heard the wood and nickel? It was different
Yeah,
than,
yeah. Because growing up, I knew the A&M stuff. Like I really knew Grand Illusion, Pieces of Eight, Paradise Theater. Those are the albums I knew the best. I knew the hits on the other albums. I knew Lady. That was really the
hmm,
only Wood and Nickel song I knew. So when I got a little bit older and I bought this complete Wood and Nickel CD and actually sat down and listened to all four of these albums, it was way different for me. It was like listening to the first three Journey albums or something like
right.
that. It was
Yeah.
completely different than what you expect from this band. You can hear hints, and we'll both be talking about that today, I think. You can hear hints of where they would kind of become, but there's so much on these albums that we'll talk about over the next few weeks that just are completely a different band than what they would end up being. So I really hope you guys, if you don't know these albums, maybe you guys can use this as an excuse to check some of these albums out. I know Jerry and I kind of had a pretty cool idea after we cover all four of these albums of the Wood and Nickel era. We might be making our own greatest hits album from the Wood and Nickel era to kind of get people's feet wet a little bit. If you don't know these albums, here's some songs that might really kind of get you to check the albums out more. So it's going to be interesting, I think. Like you said, it's very different.
Yeah, and you won't see Tommy Shaw quite in these first four albums at all, or first five albums actually from Styx, but these four Wood and Nichols, they had John Strelewski as their guitarist. I think he was an amazing guitar player, and a pretty cool singer. He was like I think him and JY blended very well guitar wise. They're both, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, their sound was just heavy hitting, melodic at the same time. As a guitar player, I really learned to appreciate this era of musicianship from Styx and the Panasso brothers. Their bass playing and drumming is off the chart on these first four albums. They were really allowed to explore their space. You know what I mean? I understand when you get to more arena rock and more radio friendly, they have to kind of tone that down to make the song. What do you call it? Not radio friendly, but just even it out again. I don't know what the hell to call
Mm-hmm.
it, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, musicianship in these first four albums, I think, are incredible. So I'm looking forward to discussing this with you, man. We're going to start out with this is how I do graphics, everybody. Sorry. Styx's debut album. Joe, you want to talk about the backstory with this album real quick?
Yeah. So this would be a great time for us to kind of give a little intro to where Styx kind of came from. So Styx was formed in the early 1960s by Chuck and John Panazzo, along with their neighbor Dennis DeYoung. They were all teenagers at the time. They were just playing music in their garage. Throughout the 60s, they would kind of play at some bars under the name Trade Winds. And then eventually they would change their name to TW4. They would add JY and JC into the band by the end of the 60s. By the beginning of the 70s, they were mainly a cover band playing in a lot of the local kind of bars. And they eventually got the notice of the Wooden Nickel Records people. They came, they checked him out at a show a couple times. They really liked their sound, and so they got in contact with them. And the people who were running Wooden Nickel Records offered the band a contract. They were still known as TW4 at that time, but the label didn't really like that name. They wanted a better name for the band, and so they gave a list of names to the band, and Styx was the one that they all agreed didn't suck.
Right.
So for I always find that kind of funny that one of the most iconic bands of the '70s picked their name because it didn't suck.
Right.
And now everyone knows the name Styx, so I think it's
Mm.
kind of funny. But they would eventually sign with Wood Nickel Recordings, take the name Styx. Not too long after that, would go into the recording studio in Chicago to record their first album at Paragon Studios. The album was produced by John Ryan and Bill Trout, who was one of the founders of Wood and Nickel. He at least co-produced this album. It was recorded throughout the summer of 1972 and it was released on August 31st. So that is a little bit of background on the first Styx album. We'll see as we get into the album itself. Four of the six songs on this album were written by outside songwriters. Nobody really with a big name at the time, but I think it was a lot of local songwriters. But the band only wrote two of the songs on this album themselves, which, as you look at the credits on every future Styx album, would not be something that would happen ever again. So keep that in mind as we kind of talk about this album. The band did not have a lot of writing input into this album, but the musicianship really shines through anyways. So that's kind of a little bit of background. Jerry, did you have anything you wanted to add at
Yeah,
all?
it was not reviewed very well by critics, which I always say, if that's the case, the media don't like it, critics don't like it, critics don't like it, it's gonna frickin' rule. And so, I mean, this isn't a perfect album by any means, but it still is a really good debut album, in my opinion. They had one song that charted at number 82. That was Best Thing. We'll talk about that when it comes along. But let's get started with the review. We'll start out with a four-part uh, song, Movement for the Common Man. And we'll start out with part A, Children of the Land. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great way to open up the album. Great rocky intro. This is a JY song. This collectively is one of the two songs that the band wrote most of. They wrote three of the four movements, or at least co-wrote three of the four movements of this song. This first part is a JY piece. JY's vocals sound amazing on this. Really, if you listen to this, you can hear JY in it, but it's not quite the same vocal sound that he would have on the A&M records. So you can hear a little bit of a different vocal style from JY here. If you look at the breakdown of this album, JY actually has most of the vocals on this
Yes.
album. Dennis only has part of this song, one other song, and a song where he co lead vocals with JY. So JY takes a lot of this album vocally, and I think he does a great job. This particular part has a really catchy chorus, great guitar work from both of the guitarists. They're playing, like you said, the interplay between JY and JC is just really great here. They blended very well together as guitar players. And this particular little snippet, Children of the Land, is a great way to open up the album. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, JY is on fire vocally on this one, and he's, predominantly uh vocals on the first, well, not predominantly on the second album, but the first one definitely. He is the driving vocal point of this album. I love this song, man. Like you mentioned, the guitar work between JY and JC, it's incredible, man. And here you got those classic Styx harmonies you're going to hear for the rest of their career, and still to this day, man. And I mentioned the Panazzos, man. John Panazzo with that solo in the middle, I love it, man. I mean, he's a really good freaking drummer. And I was reading into it, I thought he would be more Bonham influenced, but I read he really was a huge fan of Keith Moon, and I can hear that now that I read that and found that out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool to know. And Chuck is an amazing bass player. What else do I got here? Just a great freaking song. It's like it's jamming. You got this really killer solo, then all of a sudden it'll stop. And part B, Street Collage comes in. It's interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, this is a kind of a weird little piece. It was written by John Ryan, one of the co-producers of the album. It basically is the sounds of the street. So it's kind of like a avant-garde piece where you hear all kinds of like street noises, like traffic and cars honking and trains going by and
Yeah.
stuff. And then these guys are talking, and I'm not really sure who it's supposed to be talking, but I don't really. They're kind of just talking about like life on the street, like what
Right.
it's like. We're hardworking, like blue collar. Um, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I think it kind of stops the song dead in its tracks for 2 minutes. And we'll talk about part three here in a little bit, but I don't know if I necessarily think that this is kind of. I think it's a little pointless. I know on a comment from our first episode, our good buddy Ralph Vieira was talking about songs he'd love to hear Styx play live, and I think he mentioned "Movement for the Common Man," and then he said in parentheses, "Just take out the talking part." And I completely agree that if they, I'd love, first of all, I'd love to see them play this live, like you mentioned, the drum solo in part one. I'd love to hear what Todd Zuckerman would be able to do with that
Mm,
particular drum
oh,
part because
absolutely.
the stuff that they play now, even all the stuff that you said that kind of they had that the Panalto brothers kind of had to tone down. They're playing a little bit on the A&M albums. Some of the stuff that Todd does live really, I think, breathes life differently into it than what John originally did on the studio recordings. I'd love to see him. I think that something that Todd Zuckerman could really just have a great time with was the stuff that John was doing on this song in particular, but this entire era of music. If they would play some of this more stuff from the Wood
Right.
and Nickel years, I think Todd Zuckerman would be amazing on doing some of that because it really fits his playing.
Yeah, we talked about this behind the scenes a little bit. Like, how cool would be if Dennis or even, Styx did like this like intimate performance somewhere of just
Yeah,
doing Wood and Nickel songs and early Styx songs. That'll never happen. I don't think JY has the stamina to do a lot of those songs anymore. And
yeah,
but it would be cool to see. I think Todd would probably hurt your ears because he would hit him so hard. I think, man. I think it would be. I would drive far. If it came to your neighborhood, I'd fly out there next day if I had to see it with you. I think that
yeah.
would be cool as hell. But getting back to Street Collage, man, it definitely gets your attention because you got this cool song that stops. All of a sudden, it's like, what's going on here? Then you hear, I'm pretty sure that's Dennis saying, I was born in depression, baby, stuff like that. And they're all talking. You know, I think that's John Slutsky that says, "No offense to you fellas, but you're with your long hair and your beard, you reek about BO and stuff like that." It's just like everyday conversations, like interviewing the common people, common man on the street, which I guess kind of fits with the song in a way. But I could take it or leave it either way. I don't hate it, I don't love it, but it's definitely attention grabbing in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So then that segues into Fanfare for the Common Man, written by Aaron Copland,
Yep.
if I'm reading that right. What do you got to say about it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a fairly famous piece of music written in the 1940s originally. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer did a great rendition of this song, and Styx really adapted it differently. Emerson, Lake, and Palmer's version was a pretty faithful rendition of the original piece. It's all instrumental. They do it pretty faithfully. Styx took the base of it and put a new song on top of it. They do a pretty faithful rendition at the opening, but then JY comes in with vocals, which was not part of the original song. So Styx kind of added their own edge to it, which I think fits really well. It's a really cool use of that original Copeland composition with a Styx song.
Right.
JY again is rocking. The guitars on this are just amazing. The band is just playing phenomenally. And something that might come up throughout the rest of this album, no matter what I have to say about the actual composition of some of the songs, I think the band is on absolute fire throughout this album. I think the musicianship is just absolutely phenomenal, regardless of how I might feel about some of the actual songs themselves. But this is a great song, great adaptation of Aaron Copland's original piece, and I think Styx just does a really good job with it. What do you think about that, Jerry?
Yeah, I love it. It's very anthemic sounding. And I know I've heard this before until you brought it up to me yet again. Joseph's like the encyclopedia of musical knowledge. So he's always there to correct me too when I'm wrong. And I appreciate that, which I'm wrong quite a bit. And you're going to find out a lot that I'm wrong. So, and if we're both wrong, let us know in the comments. But yeah, it's very, very anthemic sounding. Great guitar playing. JY again is on fire, man. That electric piano that Dennis plays in these early recordings are just amazing, dude. I love the sound of it. I mean, it's a great part three to a song, I guess, man. So far I'm loving this album, man. So that'll go into part D, Mother Nature's Matinee. What do you
Yeah,
think?
this is another great ending. This is the first that we get to hear Dennis taking lead vocals on the album. He wrote this portion, and it's a cool kind of slower feel at the beginning that gives us our first exposure to Dennis on vocals. The acoustic guitar work by John Serlewski is absolutely phenomenal. That's one of the highlights of this album for me is JC's acoustic guitar playing. And then there's a really just fun jam at the end. There's this
Yeah.
great jam that kind of builds up like I said, it starts a little bit softer when Dennis has the vocals, and then it builds up to this really fun jam at the end. A great way to close out this first track. Overall, I think this first track is a great introduction to where Styx would go. Like I said, this is one of the few things on the album that they largely wrote themselves. So this was a great way to open up their career, in my opinion.
Mhm. Yeah, this song is, I've always said Dennis's wheelhouse was definitely these type of songs. I mean, he can sing the faster rocker songs too, don't get me wrong, Rockin' the Paradise, The Grand Illusion, but his ballpark, man, is definitely these slower paced songs with that amazing voice he has. I think this song fits it perfectly. Um, and John's got these really cool drum fills all through it, through the slow part. It's really uh cool. I mean, I'm saying cool, but I'm looking for another word. I can't describe it. It's just really different, I think,
Mm-hmm.
for a song like that. And it's just that, and you mentioned the jam at the end, incredible, dude. I mean, I love what I'm hearing from this album so far, and let's hope it continues. So then we'll go to the next song, which is the closeout side one. Ought to be Right Away. What do you think?
Yeah, this is an okay slower song, and this is a little bit weird. Like you kind of said, normally the slower songs are Dennis's wheelhouse, and the heavier rocking songs are more JY's wheelhouse. But this is JY singing a more mid-tempo song. Um, to me, it's nothing too special. The chorus is pretty cool, but other than that, I'm not really blown away by this song. Again, the band sounds great, JY sounds great, but as a song, I'm not a huge fan of it. This is the first of four songs on the album written by an outside songwriter, like I mentioned. In this case, the songwriter's name was Paul Frank. Um, again, don't really know anything about him other than the fact that he wrote this. So this was a lot of things that the label really wanted them to do. The label was really pushing them a certain way on this album to the point where one of the co-producers, like I said, was one of the founders of the label. So this is really a label heavy album. Um, and as we'll see as we cover the next few albums, the success of this album and then particularly the success of the next album really kind of gave the label confidence and Styx to say, okay, we're going to let you kind of do what you guys want to do here on these next few albums.
And that was a great decision because his next three albums are absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's written by somebody named Paul Frank. I originally thought it was Paul Frank Young because they were all three of those names were next to each other on the Wikipedia page when I looked at it. But Joseph, like, that's Paul Frank. That's just James Young singing. So again, Joseph corrects me, which I appreciate it. I love JY's voice, and it's almost Southern rock. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I love this song. I love that chorus, man. Right. I can't go that high. I'm not even about to attempt it. It's just really cool. It's two words in a chorus and it sounds amazing. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song, man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say that you haven't said already. I got the same notes you written down, so we'll move on. Side two, what has come between us? What do you got?
Yeah, this is another one written by an outside songwriter, Mark Gaddis. This is the only track on the album where Dennis DeYoung is the sole lead vocalist. And it's another decent song. Nothing really too kind of great for me. The last song and this song are kind of my least favorite songs on the album, but it has a kind of cool, catchy chorus. The harmonies are cool as well.
Lovely
Um,
lady. Yeah.
but the song itself is nothing to write home about. I would, in all honesty, much rather have had them write another song or two on their own than include these last two songs. But overall, nothing that I would skip necessarily, but nothing I'd probably go back to specifically.
Well, my first note on it is you're going to hear this guitar riff later on in Styx's catalog.
Yes,
I'm sure
you
once you
are.
hear, I'm sure that everybody that's listening and gets into this one, Nicholas, say, "Hey, that sounds familiar." A
They
couple
they
albums
might
later,
they might open an album with it.
exactly. But I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. I really do like this song, man. I mean, it's great ballady. Again, Dennis's wheelhouse, man. The high harmonies in the chorus, man, are just incredible. I say incredible. I'm saying incredible more than I said man last time. So yeah, I apologize for that. I know in the first episode I used the word man a lot. I was just kind of excited about doing the show, and I was a little overzealous, you can
Each
say.
episode, Jerry's going to have a special word that you got
Right.
to keep an eye out
There you
for.
go,
What
man.
word does Jerry say the most this episode?
Right. And again, you got this cool jam that comes out of it all of a sudden, man. Great acoustic work. Electric piano again. Man, I just love there's a man. I love the sound of that, man. So I think this is another great song. I think I like it a little bit more than you do. But with that being said, we'll go with the only single from this album, which actually hit number 82 on the pop chart. It's a collab from Dennis and JY called Best Thing. What do you think about it, man?
Yeah, I think this is a great song. This is a really great kind of early look into their songwriting style. You could really hear some early kind of little hints of where they would go later, especially with the song that really broke them on the next album. Um, there's some great harmonies here from Dennis and James Young. Um, like you said, it's the only single that was released from the album. It's probably the most popular song from the album, and I think it's just a really great song. It's a cool track. Definitely a great thing for them. This being the only other song on the album that they actually wrote themselves. JY and Dennis co-wrote this song. This and 3/4 or 2.5 fourths of Movement for the Common Man was the only other thing on the album the band actually wrote. But this was both written and co-sung by James Young and Dennis DeYoung.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite Styx songs, period, man. A total freaking rocker and a total band effort. Um, I love James' vocals on "Loving seemed to be the best thing that I ever had." Yeah, yeah, yeah. He goes, "No, no, 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 no." And then yeah, 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 yeah. It's like a yes and no with the chorus. And I think they do well together. I don't think in the classic area JY and Dennis ever did a collab. I know Tommy and JY did them. Offhand I can't think of any, but that was cool to hear actually. Chuck's got this great fuzzy bass sound on it, which I really dig, man. This is another great song. I mean, this song is not lit up, in my opinion. So we'll move on to the next song, which is "Quick is the Beat of My Heart." What do you think, Joe?
To me, this is easily the best of the cover songs on this album. This song was written by a guy named Lewis Mark. Again, no clue who this guy is, but I think he wrote a really great song here. JY sounds awesome on it. The song's rocking. The band is on fire on this track. The ending is so cool where it kind of fades out with the repetitive vocals from JY. And I'll talk about it when we get to the next song, but honestly, in my opinion, I think this song would have been a great closer for the album. Um, we'll talk about when we get to the next song a little bit as well. But I think this is easily the best of the cover songs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that ending. If it's my turn to die, die, die. Echo. I mean, that really actually comes out of nowhere again, in my opinion. Uh, I love that palm muted riff all the way through it. It's really, really cool. And you mentioned it. I think it probably is the best of the covers of the cover or outside writings. I don't know if this
Either
is a
way,
cover.
like
Either way, same
I
thing.
think on
Yeah,
Wikipedia it says they're cover
yeah,
songs, but I've
right.
never seen it like they were recorded by
Yeah.
anybody else. So I
And
don't
this is
know.
a and this is a great song to put the headphones on and listen to it. You get to hear every little part. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you can just tell what great musicians they are through this song. I actually do love the song, and I especially really do love that ending. And I'll probably talk about that ending more with this after we talk about this next song, maybe the placement of the songs. But let's finish this album out. After You Leave Me, and it's not the George Clinton you're thinking about.
Yeah, so yeah, this is something Jerry and I talked about a little bit. This song, After You Leave Me, was written by George S. Clinton, not the Parliament Funkadelic George Clinton, but
That
a
would have been
different
interesting,
George.
wouldn't
That
it?
would have
That
been
would have been interesting.
kind of fun.
Yeah.
But it was written by a different George Clinton who actually ended up writing film scores. He got famous for writing film scores later, including a couple of the Cheech and Chong movies, as well as the first Austin Powers movie. He got famous for writing the score for it. So little kind of cool tidbit there. But I think this is a really cool track as well. More great vocal harmonies. Um, this is an okay way to close the album out, in my opinion, but I think that I would have preferred if they would have flipped the last two tracks. I think both are great tracks, but I think that Quick as the Beat of My Heart works better as a closer for me, with just the heaviness of it, plus also that really cool ending. I think would have fit better as an album closer. than After You Leave Me, even though After You Leave Me is also a great song as well.
Yeah. Uh, I agree with you now. We actually recorded this episode a couple of days ago, but I screwed it up, so we're redoing it again. But I'm going to change my opinion on something. I agree with you about the placement of the songs. I didn't have a problem with it until I listened to it a few more times. And yeah, I would love to have seen that end with that. My time to die, die. That would have been cool to end the album. But the song is great. I love that acoustic, that not the acoustic, but the harmonic electric guitar over the
Mm-hmm.
piano. And JY, man, he definitely the all star, the all pro of this album with his vocals, I think. What else? Probably some of the highest harmonies on the album so far. I love that part when it goes do 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 do. Love that. It is a great song. It's a great song, but I agree with you. I kind of would like to switch them around. So I kind of agree with you there. But as a whole, what would you think about this album?
Yeah, I'm a little probably a little bit like Jerry said. We recorded this a couple days ago. We're re-recording this again. I also went back and listened to it again. I probably would be a little kinder to it than I was originally. Originally, I think I gave it like a 6.5. I'd probably bump that up to now either a 7 or a 7.5. There's nothing that I would actively skip on this album, even if Right Away and What Has Come Between Us didn't really blow me away. I still think that they're decent songs, especially for a band's first album, and especially since they didn't write them. They did their best with what they could on a song that they probably weren't that enthused about recording to begin with. I think that their musicianship really shined through the vocals. They did their best with what they had on those two songs, but the other four songs I think are fantastic. I really think that they came out of the gate strong here. And I just a little bit of a teaser for where we're going. I think it's only up from here. I think the
Right.
next couple albums take the foundation that they laid here and just build on it. So I'm really excited for people to be able to hear this album if you aren't familiar with this album, and then hopefully follow us along as we cover the next few albums to then get to the part that everybody knows.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I think that this album is easily a 7 or a 7.5 out of 10 for me. Really, really great way to start your career off. I've heard a lot worse debut albums in my time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they took the covers and they stixified them. That's the new
Yeah.
word, stixified. Uh, I would give this an 8 out of 10. I do like every song on it, but some of them I like better. Unlike some Styx albums, which I like every song just the same or above liking them, like above a 10,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? But I go back to this album quite a bit now. I haven't in years, but since we started to do the show, decided to do the show a couple months ago, I listened to it a lot, and it's a really good listen. It's a good relaxing listen, believe it or not, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. So like I said, if you're not familiar with this era, check them out. You can get this it has every song from that era, even a couple extras that aren't even
Yeah,
on
a
some of
good
these
bonus
albums.
track.
You would get the plexiglass toilet song on this album if you're curious about it. It'll be coming up on a future episode, but yeah, we'll be doing Styx 2 next, and we'll finally get to hear vocals from John Strelewski on a couple songs on this album. Spoiler alert there. And it'll have a song you might have heard before if you're into the classic Styx. You may have heard this song a time or two, but we
If you
will.
listen to classic rock for like 10
Right.
minutes a day,
Yes, exactly. Um, but that's our review of Styx 1. Thank you very much for tuning in and leaving your comments. And if you got a moment, tell us what you think about this album. The best parts that you like, the worst parts that you like. Let us know. Like I said, we're going to try to get back to every comment as possible. So
hmm
again, thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you enough. But for me and for Joseph, thank you very much, and we'll see you next episode. Take it easy.